Everyone. So a good friend of mine asked the question, what is to keep central banks or companies from issuing their own digital currencies? And wouldn't this increase volatility? Great question. The answer is there's nothing to keep anyone from issuing their own currency, and it doesn't matter if it's digital or not. So, for example, you can download some pictures of dollar bills or emojis or whatever on your computer, and you can print them out on your home printer, and you can call them dollar bills, and they can be Joel's dollars, they can be Joel's coins. You can use Monopoly money. Anybody can make anything and claim it's money. It can be digital, it can be physical, literally. You can take even Bitcoin, the actual code of Bitcoin, and I can do a copy and replace, and everywhere it says the word Bitcoin, I can replace it with Joel coin, and then I can release it out into the world tomorrow. So why is Bitcoin valuable in a world where anybody can spin up their own digital currency and anybody can print their own paper money on anybody, literally anyone with a printer can print their own paper money with their own picture on it and all that. Why is Bitcoin valuable in that world? And the answer is the credibility of its monetary properties. I'll say that again, the credibility of its monetary properties. So the reason nobody wants a Joel dollar bill or a Joel, Joel coin or anything is because the monetary properties do not have any credibility. There's no guarantee of scarcity. The reason Bitcoin is valuable is because hundreds of millions of people use it worldwide, have all agreed on what it is, what makes a Bitcoin, and that there's tens of billions, or at this point, hundreds of billions of dollars of computer mining equipment securing and auditing the Bitcoin network. So if I spin up a Joel coin tomorrow and it's secured by my home laptop, well, so what? Nobody's going to believe that that is a secure and audited network as compared to the Bitcoin network, which is secured and audited by the most powerful computer network in the entire world. So right now there's more than 20,000 digital currencies in the world, 20,000. Most of them are just random stuff people spun up. Some of them are central bank digital currencies. They're called CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. And they are essentially the cryptocurrency equivalent of a central bank currency like the US dollar or the euro or the Chinese yuan or the won or whatever. Anyway, the reason nobody really wants those though is because for a central bank digital currency, they don't add anything to the mix. So central banks already have currencies. So the fact that they're, cryptography enabled doesn't do anything except enable central banks to do surveillance on those currencies. So, but they don't give you any benefit. You can already use existing currencies, already paper currencies. You can already use them electronically using any form of the existing financial system. So central banks have been trying to roll out their own central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, but they have not caught on. Basically, nobody cares because there's no value proposition. There's no reason to want a digital currency issued by a central bank. And in the case of a central bank digital currency, the central bank controls, they can freeze the funds at any time. They can seize the funds at any time. They can program your funds with the central bank digital currency. And again, none of this is possible with Bitcoin. But with a central bank digital currency, they can freeze and seize your funds. They can also put expiration on your funds. So with the central bank digital currency, they can, for example, say that if you don't spend at least 5% of your money every month, that it will magically just disappear. And that's the way they can force you to spend money even when you want to save your money. So anyway, central bank digital currencies enable the government to do a bunch of stuff that terrifies a lot of people. One second. So as a result, they have no improvement in the credibility of their monetary properties, and they have a huge downside with increased surveillance by central governments. So the country that's farthest along with the central bank digital currency is China, who's been basically begging and coercing their people to try to use it, and it's just essentially been a flop. Like nobody can figure out why they benefit from this or why they would want the central government of China to have greater control over their money and to be able to do things like restrict what they spend it on. So with a central bank digital currency, you can also program it where it only works for certain transactions. So, for example, the central government could decide that they don't like it when Christians purchase Bibles anymore. And so they could put a prohibition where you're no longer allowed to spend your central bank digital currency at a Christian bookstore, for example. So there's really no reason. So, short answer to the question is, what keeps anybody from spinning it up? Nothing. The same thing as what keeps you from printing out copies of your own paper currency, putting your picture on them, printing them out at your home computer, and then cutting them into squares and calling them money. The answer is nothing. Anybody can do that. In the case of cryptocurrencies, it's been done 20,000 times, and Bitcoin is more valuable than all 20,000 of the other cryptocurrencies combined, plus a significant margin. It's just almost all of them are worthless. So, and the ones that aren't worthless are sort of trending towards zero. So, anyway, so for all that reason, there is only one that is worth anything, in my opinion, and that is Bitcoin, the real Bitcoin, which is the BTC, is the letters typically associated with it, and it's worth about $68,500, about between 68,000 and 68,500 right now as I record this. Anyway, and then the second part of that question was volatility. What about volatility? So yes, when new currencies enter the market, it can cause volatility if those new currencies have credible monetary properties. Uh, but there's no reason to believe that anybody will release anything that will have credible monetary properties. Now, in the very early days of Bitcoin, like maybe the first 2 or 3 years, an argument could have been made that somebody might come along and improve Bitcoin because the network at that point was so small and it was so cheap and it was worth less than $1 and all that sort of stuff. It would have been relatively easy to compete with Bitcoin when it was very small. But that's been, it's been 12, 13, 14 years since Bitcoin was that small. And nobody I know thinks there's any credible threat from any other digital currency. It's basically Bitcoin won the race. It left everybody in the dust, and new digital currencies, whether issued by these by the Federal Reserve or other central banks, or issued by private corporations, nobody's going to trust them. J.P. Morgan, Wells Fargo, nobody's going to use their digital currency because nobody trusts that they're not going to print more of it. And it's not secured and audited by the world's largest network. So there's just no reason to believe that any of those will go anywhere. So again, short summary, anybody can introduce any sort of money. I could use the sand in my backyard and say it's money, but the credibility of its monetary properties, how certain the world is that I can't make more of it, that it's divisible, that it's durable, that it's authenticatable, that it's verifiable, that it's acceptable, around the world as money. Bitcoin is the only one that meets those criteria, and so it's the only one that matters. So I'll do a few other videos shortly here, but that is the answer on that front. And I'll be back on momentarily.